Welcome to Hummus and Tech, helping Olim navigate the Israeli high-tech industry.
We are Maggie and Kevin, and we're so happy to have with us today Oren Toledano. Oren, hi, welcome.
Hi, how are you guys?
How are you?
Good to see you.
So, Oren, you have a very extensive and interesting career that is actually extremely relevant to our show. So, please, if you can introduce yourself and what you're doing right now.
Sure. So, I'm Oren Toledano. I'm 42. I'm the CEO of Swimm, Swimm.io, which is a startup that was founded about a year and a half ago. Before I co-founded Swimm, I was the CEO and the co-founder of Israel Tech Challenge, ITC, for 7 years. It's a long project that was extremely important in my life and that you probably know a lot of people who are connected with. Before ITC, I was during 3 years the head of the Jewish Agency delegation in France. As an emissary of the Jewish Agency, and before this position, I was 8 years. Sorry, Siri is waking up. I was 8 years in the intelligence unit 8200. I was a major in this unit, and as I told you guys before we started recording, I came to Israel when I was almost 18 from France. So I grew up in Paris, like many Olim that you probably know, but I didn't have the time at this age to study in a French university, so I did all my academic years in Israel in the Hebrew University and Tel Aviv University.
Amazing. It's like an impressive career, and also as an Ole, it's like, wow. And for those of us listening to us, ITC, we've mentioned this bootcamp several times in our podcast, and we had a lot of guests coming and telling their stories and what they went through with ITC. It's a bootcamp that helps you from zero to become a developer, or if you're a developer and you want to get more into data, there are like different bootcamps. It's pretty cool. If you haven't heard it before, go and check it out. Tell us a little bit more about Swimm, because I think it's also relevant for everyone who is listening to us. It's a really cool product.
Sure. I can tell you why also it's related to ITC. So through this story, I can connect the two. I hope that ITC is connected to many of your listeners, and many experienced their first steps in Israel through ITC. And so what we wanted is to bring the best talented people from around the world, bring this mixture of backgrounds, academic studies from different universities, not only Technion, Tel Aviv University, Hebrew U, but this variety we believed, and we know now that it was right, would bring something very strong and new and contributive to the tech ecosystem in Israel. What we did know that we had as Israelis was a way to train people that is very unique. And we learned that, Raphael, my co-founder at ITC, and I, through the training we experienced ourselves in 8200, in the tech unit, in the army. And what we wanted to build, and it's relevant to Swimm, that's why I'm connecting the two, we wanted to build a training structure that would enable people who didn't have the opportunity to join these tech units to actually have this kind of like a very immersive, intensive experience, hands-on experience, and prepare them the best way so they could reach the best positions in the tech industry in Israel. And we were when we started ITC 8 years ago, it was a moment where the industry really exploded in a great way, but it was in a shortage of human capital. They were looking for developers all around, but as you probably already know, the tech industry in Israel is researching for people, but is also willing to accept only the best people, right? So we need developers, but we need the best developers. So we really wanted to create this elite structure where we're first finding the best talent, the best raw talent, or the best academic talent, and then we're going to train them the Israeli way, make them ready for the companies. And the way it connects with Swimm is, hundreds of people went through ITC and were placed in the industry. That was also part of the model of ITC. But what we noticed is even people who are great in every sense and were trained the best way we know experience difficulty when they join a tech company. I mean, developers. Because it takes time before they understand the code of the company, before they are really fully ramped up, and they can contribute a valuable code to the company. So for sure, in most companies, people would start contributing code the first week or the first 2 weeks or whatever, but before they're really a big part of the company, it can take months. And so the original idea was to say, okay, we know how to train people. We did that at ITC. Let's make it very scalable and a technology so we can implement that. And we are going to build that in a way that every company that has different code, different technology, different product can use Swimm to train developers on their code, right? On their code base. And I think that's the basis of Swimm. It's a dev tool that enables people who know the code to ramp up more easily software developers on their code, right? So it's also some sort of sharing platform for knowledge on the code base, which is something that happens when you need to onboard to a new company or when you need to work on a project that you don't know, when you need to contribute to an open source project, etc. So all these moments, all these use cases, as we like to call them, are a situation where a developer needs to understand the code of someone else. And this usually takes time, and we're trying to change the way it happens. So that's Swimm.
That's amazing. And it sounds like a great product and a great company.
The fact that it's all a cohesive story, like this was your goal since when you went in the army, then with ITC, now with Swimm, it's all follows like this story of helping developers, either people become developers or developers be more productive. There's one line here, and I think it's wonderful that you were able to follow this and also the evolution of this.
And it's actually funny for someone who studied at the university Middle East studies in Arabic, right? You wouldn't think it's possible to deal so much time of your career, with developers. And I think that you can take it even one step back to also the period where I was, during which I was a Jewish agency emissary, because there it was all about bringing people to Israel, right? So it's like me being an Ole, experiencing this unique thing in the army and the training that went there. Then go to Europe and bring back, during my period, around 6,000 Jews, who made Aliyah from France. And then ITC, you bring the Olim, you bring the tech, the training, and then Swimm, which is like a more like startup nation story. So when you are old like me, 42, and you like to look back and say, was my life already meaningful? I think I can tell a story to myself before I can tell to anybody else. That it made sense, every decision, and it's also wasn't only for me, but for the sake of the country, of the people. So I think I feel that's why I feel good with Swimm. That's why I felt very good with ITC, and I think you're right. I'm happy it can be connected some way.
Amazing.
And I have a question for you, because you clearly went through the whole narrative of an Ole. You were an Ole yourself, then you helped, bring in people, then you trained them, and now you're in a position where you may need to hire them, right? Because now you're a founder of a company. So I would like to ask you, what is the added value that you think an Ole can bring? And what would you recommend anyone who is approaching their first job, now having you as a hiring manager?
Right. So I'm gonna say things that I really believe in. It might not be the most standard. As you can, if you speak with me in Hebrew, in most cases, people won't know that I used to be French, right? And that's because I really believe in the fact that you need to know Hebrew. That's something that if I can be the shaliach, the Jewish agency emissary, is saying, you really need to make the investment and learn Hebrew. I didn't know Hebrew before I came to Israel, so I learned when I was 18, right? But it was a key for many, many opportunities in the future, even though it's tech, it's English, it's international. So that's the personal message. The fact that you're an Ole brings with you a lot of advantages, a lot of skills, a lot of background that is interesting, but also you need to make the effort to connect with the new country you join. You need to understand the culture and the language, etc. So once you have that and you have this key, right, to open the door to the hearts and the career and the jobs, and you're in, so now is the time to bring your background to the table, and the fact that you understand different cultures, that you know how to connect with clients, you know how to build the right messaging for the country you're coming from. You're challenging the team with a different approach, a different point of view. So that's why we like to have this variety and mixity of people coming to the team. And yes, we're hiring for marketing, for development, for all that. And we love to have people coming from different background. In some cases, it's you have to, right? Because we're a small country. The market here, you probably hear that every time, but the market is not significant. So you obviously need to be open to the rest of the world. And Israel has this secret that the Olim are the secret army of being international, right? We can keep it up to date. And I think it's very, very relevant in our field, but in every startup, in every company, you would look for people who bring this international spice and understanding of what you need. So I think it's good for when you're building a product and you want a different view, not only people that were in 80 to 100, etc., and have a very specific state of mind, but of course, when you need to market the product and then promote the product and message the product, all that is of course super relevant. And yes, we are happy to hire. And we actually, for some jobs, it's we don't write it, but obviously we're expecting Olim to be the people who'll get them.
Great. And if you are interviewing me, what would you recommend me to bring up or to tell you, or how should I prepare for an interview with you, Oren?
I think it's right for every, not only for Oren, but everyone. And we used to train people at ITC to prepare for interviews, right? Because it's something that you don't really learn when you're, at university, etc. You're just studying, and then suddenly you have to tell a story. And that's basically what we're doing right now, right? An interview is like a date. I want to have a first impression of you. I want to feel you. I want to see what kind of person you are. Do we match? And I think one of the things that you want to do, I mean, it's quite old for me, but dating recommendations as well is not trying to please, but be yourself, right? Because when you're applying for a job, you don't want to please the person and give the wrong impression, because they are going to make a decision based on something that isn't real, and you want to be yourself. So it's difficult to be yourself, right? Because the society gives you all kind of messages and you think you should be something else. But you need to be yourself, but you need to be able to articulate it and be able to explain it. That's why you need to prepare, right? You need to think, what kind of points do I want to make sure Oren or whoever is going to be on the other side of the table or Zoom is going to understand about me. And can be good things. It can be, challenging things, but it needs to be there, and it needs to be explained in a very compelling way. It needs to be clear, and it needs to be quite explicit. In terms of the culture gap that we have, sometimes people who come from outside Israel don't understand that Israelis are like very explicit. So you really need to tell them things, with all the words in the sentence to make sure they understand. It's not they're stupid or they're, or not, smart this way, but they just need to understand the message direct. When we say Israelis are direct, it's also a matter of explicitity. And so if I want you to understand something about me, I'm going to tell it very, in a very clear way. And I need to prepare also about the company, because if you're going to join a startup, you're going to join people who made a lot of sacrifices for this company to exist. And for them, it's the story of their life, their baby. So you need to you learned about the company, you understood the challenges of the company, you learned about the market. So when you come, you're not like, yeah, I got this invitation for an interview, but I don't really know about Swimm or whatever. But you know, and you have ideas. People, I can say most of the entrepreneurs in Israel like proactiveness, right? So you have ideas already, and if they're on spot, if you're spot on, if it's on point, so it will make the effect that you're looking for. And sometimes it doesn't work. It's like raising money for a startup. You get a lot of no's. It doesn't mean the startup is not relevant or the product you have in mind is not true or you as yourself are not good enough, but it's going to be, most of the answers are going to be negative, right? Unless you're exactly what everybody is looking for right now, and it's mostly a trend, even as a person, right? And you don't want to be a trend, you want to be your true self.
Yeah, definitely. Great advice. Let's help everyone who will be interviewing at Swimm. Let's give them some insights. What does Swimm, where does the name come from?
Yeah, so it's a good story. We were in California, the founders, and we were trying to, there is a process before you found a company. It's called validation of the idea, right? So you want to meet your future clients, tell them your story and your idea, and see their reaction. So we were asking a lot of the companies, so how do you onboard developers? How do you do that? And in most cases, they didn't have a clear answer. And they say, we give them tasks from the backlog. We try to find a bug, a small bug, and we throw them to the water, and they either sink or swim, right? And so we heard that many times and say, no, we don't want people to sink. We want them to swim. And swim sounds cool. And at the beginning, we thought maybe Swimm, double E, and it sounded a bit like cheesy. So we went for the Swimm, double M, and Swimm, clearly, it's nice. And people remember it, which is something you want when you choose the name of a company. And, so it's here to stay.
A beautiful story.
That's amazing. And yes, beautiful.
So if I'm a developer, I'm starting in a new company, I'm just getting started, just getting onboarded on a new company. First, I need to tell my manager to get Swimm for the company, so the next developer will have it easier for them. But do you have any tips for a developer onboarding to a company where Swimm is still not installed? What can a developer do on its own to get the most out of this process?
Yeah, it's a difficult moment. One of the things what we talked about with our clients is that there is the spinning chair syndrome, where like I'm sitting and what I'm gonna do today if nobody thought about me, right? And didn't really prepare, because in many teams you have great developers and great technology, but they're not necessarily the best trainers, because that's not who they are, right? So they don't really know that the sink or swim, ideology comes a lot from that, because I don't know what to do, so I'm going to just let them, manage. So obviously you want to gather all the information that already exists in the company, either from what it's written or find you a mentor in the team. In better companies, there is a mentor buddy system. Usually you will get one, I hope so. And then you need to, use it, the best you can. And you need to try and make mistakes and read the code, ask questions, test. So yeah, I think there is no great solution. That's why we wanted to create Swim, because what I'm saying here is taking months for people, right? So in some companies we heard 9 months, a year before a developer is fully ramped up. So not only the developer himself or herself is stressed by the situation and unhappy, but also the managers kind of expectations that it will take more, it will be faster because they need them. So yeah, so I don't know if there is a magic when you don't have something that is really well prepared for you. But obviously, you're going to put a lot of hours, and you should anyway, invest your best time and brain cells to understand what's going on there, and hopefully, the code would have at least been maintained in a good way, and the code is clear, and then you can understand. If not, you kind of you're screwed. Yes, you might sink, but you'll be strong and you will swim eventually.
Absolutely. And another thing that I'd like to tap on, I mean, you clearly came from, being an Aliyah to now being an entrepreneur, and you recently started a company, right? You said it's a year and a half ago, something, yeah,
Yes.
that you opened.
Yeah.
So, exactly. So I'm wondering that there's many of our listeners who are thinking about doing Aliyah right now. And clearly we're going through worldwide pandemic, and things may have gotten a bit shakier than they expected. From your point of view as a hiring manager and a CEO of a company, how do you see the ecosystem here? Like, would you still advise them to come and look for a job even though the situation is like that, or just stay at home?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so again, you're asking me as the CEO of Swim, but I am also a proud Israeli, and I will always be on the side of Israel. And I think during this pandemic, there are many things to say about how Israel manages the situation, and you can I'm not very political, but I think when you look at the large scale, we're not doing bad. And in some might say we're doing great. Of course, it's a challenging situation in any case. If we're talking about tech specifically, so the first 2 months were a bit stressful, I can tell, also from the fundraising side of things, because we were just finalizing the round and everything, and it was like, oh, shaky, the world is going to collapse and all that. But it eventually didn't. And you can see, the stock market in the US and, investments and everything is booming, right? Why is that? Is because technology became obvious as a solution to the pandemic, right? For everything, every aspect of it. It's education, work, health, all that. You need technology. So it's just a good bet for investors to invest in technology, and Israel is obviously. So you have this year that is a crazy year of unicorns and IPOs and all that. So it's really, so when there is a lot of money in the system, right, there is a lot of venture capital funds. So you see companies growing, and you see new companies. So there it means jobs, right? And for people who have the skills, either development or marketing or sales or whatever that is, I think every company is now hiring. Every healthy company is right now hiring. I know we have maybe 4, 5 or 6 open positions right now, and we're small. We're a very early stage, so I know companies that hire. I know I've heard similar web with 250 open positions or something, and there are many many big companies that hire a lot right now, and especially after post IPO, so you have so much money coming in and you need to grow. And when you need to grow, one of the things we were talking about 10 years ago is like the whole ecosystem was all tech, all development, right? A lot of small startups that build a great technology and sell it. And now you are in this post, startup nation era with the scale-up nation or whatever. You have these big companies, and they need more. They don't need only the technology. They need the business operation, the sales, the customer success, all that. That once was like you had a few opportunities in this. Here, everybody is looking, and it might be there is always a challenge here, because when you are on the side of the Olim or every person that is looking, it feels that it's difficult to find a job, right? It's a challenge. It's a journey. And when you're in the side of the hiring, companies, it's a challenge to find the right person. So there is something that is, I know you guys, the Olim community, and has all kind of like opportunities to show job openings, etc. But there is a lot of work to do in first people to knowing about these job opportunities, and second, in understanding what people are looking for, because sometimes you have the skills but you are not telling the story the way it should be, or you don't have the right skill that is really needed. So if you need a training, that's why ITC was doing something, but you have many other organizations that sometimes you need this additional layer of knowledge or understanding what is now needed in the field of marketing, what is now needed in the field of sales, and learn about it, right? You never stop learning, and then you're ready. So yes, come to Israel and work for the tech industry.
Yeah. Let's come. We will meet you. Well, that was amazing.
Now the sky is closed, but
yeah, but let's give it a week or
March,
2 weeks.
Come in March.
Yeah, or when this episode is live, probably it will already be open. So come, we will wait for you. I think it's time to wrap it up. What do you think, Maggie?
I think it is, but we never wrap it up before we ask two very, very important questions in the show. So Oren, please, we would like to know, first of all, which one is your favorite Hebrew word, the translation, and why? And second, but definitely not less important, is which is your favorite hummus place in Israel?
Okay. So, we are here to empower people, right? So we're going to pick a word that makes, sense. It's edgar, or challenge. And it was in the Israel Tech Challenge. I think for me, it was always about that, right? If it's not challenging enough, so you're not pushing the limit enough, it's too easy, and you don't feel this, stomachache of stress and fear. So you're doing something that is too easy for you, right? You're not going to grow there. So in order to grow as a person, in order to grow as a professional, as a personal person, etc., so you need this challenge always, edgar. And in terms of the hummus, so I live in Jerusalem. Well, I work in Tel Aviv, but I live in Jerusalem, and in Jerusalem there is a hummus called Hummus Ben Sira. The truth is I didn't eat there for a long time. I hope it's still alive. But it's really next to the Mamila Canyon. It's behind it. It's an old place, very small, and serves very great hummus. So Hummus Ben Sira.
Amazing.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure to meet you guys, and great work with the podcast and the community in general. It's great to see. It's also an entrepreneurship, and it's great to see that live and kicking. So.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, for your time and all the wisdom that you've shared.
Thank you.
And everyone listening, don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram, and check Swimm open positions at swimm.com. You can find all the positions. So that's it. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.